Hey, my name is Jay. Welcome to Dios Ministry. Today we're going to talk about the history of the Reformation. It's a four-part series, and today we're going to talk about the Pre-Reformation. We won't be going over the specific details about each event. However, if you wish to study more about the Pre-Reformation, uh, to the after Reformation, I encourage you to do so. But today's series, we're going to talk about two things: what is Reformed, second, Pre-Reformation. What is reform, or what does it mean? The dictionary talks about to make changes or in order to improve it, to make things right and correct the things that are wrong. Defining in Christian's perspective, going back to the Bible and leaving all bias aside and changing the things which we must correct from the Bible. I believe that is the true definition of what reform means. So, who is a reformer? Despite the ecclesiastical or the church corruption, man who desires to go back to the very foundation of the Word of God, wanting to bring the church back to the Bible to examine their motives and theology. The group of Reformation came up with the word "semper reformanda," which means which is in Latin, which means in English, always reforming. Church is not perfect. It's never going to be uh, on earth. Humans aren't perfect also. They will never be perfect. We must continue to reform and correct our ways before God in every way. So, Reformation. Of course, everyone knows Martin Luther in October 31st, 1517, where he finished his 95 thesis and nailed it to the door of the church of Wittenberg and to Alberts of Mainz, going against the doctrine of indulgences. What happened before the Reformation is what we're going to talk about today. To discover the developing of the Reformation is pretty much a four particular events that will bring a spark to the Reformation. These three events are the end of the Crusade, second is Renaissance, three is two popes, and four the Black Death. Um, the Crusades ended in the late 13th century. While they were in the East, they brought along books from Aristotle, Cicero, Muslim scientists and philosophers. Greek and Arabic works were brought to Europe. After having to fight for about 2 centuries, people started to read from Greek and Arab collection, not just Plato. Plato was the philosophy of that day. As early as the 12th century, the ideal of Plato which he pretty much says, look to the ideal was set aside, and the works of Aristotle, look to the real, drastically changed the world. As people lived looking towards the ideal, which is heaven, they started to think about life and enjoying life. People started to paint real human beings and real pictures, and not just Jesus and Mary, which was the arts before the Renaissance or the Crusades. People started to think about life, science, philosophy, and religion. Renaissance was not to downgrade Christianity, but it was to help Christianity. Universities such as Oxford began to rise. Greek language was learned among these men, and also the Greek Bible instead of the Latin Vulgate, which was the primary translation of the Bible. Um, and those are the two things, the Crusade and the Renaissance. Now we're going to talk about the two popes. Uh, this is called the Babylonian captivity, where Pope Clement V to Pope Gregory XI resided in France. There was a Western schism after Pope Gregory XI, which made him move back to Rome And after he died, 1378, the Romans demanded a Roman pope or an Italian one. Pope Urban VI was chosen for the Rome, and Pope Clement VII was chosen in France. For 40 years, this was called the Babylonian captivity. Last thing we're going to talk about is the Black Death, which began in the late 1340s, began from the southwestern or Central Asia. Estimated 75 million people and 20 million deaths in Europe alone. More than two-thirds of Europe's population. An estimated 1 out of 4 people died from this plague. After the Black Death, this was the decline of feudalism. Anyone can become anything they wanted. So, leaving that, next week we're going to continue with the Pre-Reformation, um, understanding John Wycliffe, John Hus, and the early life of Martin Luther. I'll see you then.